I am Diane Morey, and I am going to be speaking to you about why do you need or want a doctorate degree to be able to make that doctorate degree decision. First, a few statistics. Less than 2% of the world's population has a doctorate, according to the US Census Bureau. And only 1.2% of the US population has a PhD. In regards to nurses with doctorates, 1.9% of nurses have earned a doctorate. So certainly with those particular statistics in mind, I am going to provide you some guidance for that doctoral decision, and hopefully this will be a sign that you have been looking for. I have 6 steps here to help you make your decision and provide you with a roadmap. Step 1, what is your purpose for considering obtaining a doctorate? Step 2, taking a look at the different types of doctorates and options so that you have a fuller understanding before you make a decision. Step 3, we'll look at defining your individual goals. Step 4, what type of support do you have? We'll talk about financial considerations and time. Step 5, we'll look at evaluating the other outcomes related to obtaining a doctorate that you might not have thought of before. And step 6, finally, analyzing the options and actually making a decision to obtain a doctorate. So what is your purpose in pursuing a doctorate? In this first step, you will want to understand yourself by reflecting on what is important to you personally and what your purpose is specifically regarding a doctorate. What is driving your desire and motivation? Each of you will have your own reason for pursuing a doctorate. I have 3 different categories here. The first is just general advancement. What do you think that that doctorate might do for you personally? And then secondly, it could be something more related to a new position outside of your institution or within, or you may have some expectations that have been placed upon your current position. And then the last one is learning, personal challenge, and yes, even pleasure. This is the category that I found myself in. I do enjoy learning, and I have always enjoyed being in school, believe it or not, yes. So you may have heard of something called Strength Finders that provides you with a list of 5 of your strengths after completing a self-assessment. And my number 1 strength is learner. And one of my other 4 strengths is related to being an achiever. So personal challenge, learning fits right in with my strengths. So first we'll talk a little bit about a career in academia. So in the second step, we're going to differentiate the types of doctorates, look at their descriptions, the length, the purposes of each, and as well as some other options related to micro-credentialing. So there are different doctorate degrees that you may see individuals have in academia. First is the PhD, and I'm going to speak specifically about nursing at the moment. This is the academic and research-based Doctor of Philosophy, which prepares students for careers in health administration, clinical research, and education. There is also the DNP, which is a practice-based Doctor of Nursing practice, which is designed to prepare experts in specialized advanced nursing practice. In terms of research skills, the PhD and DNP are not always thought to be interchangeable. And this is because the PhD has the dissertation and a DNP has a project. Now, that can vary from institution, so you may see more similarities in that depending on the particular school. But the PhD is usually that full research-based dissertation, and the DNP may look fairly similar, as I said, depending on the school in particular. The same is true in terms of preparation for faculty roles in terms of some opinions. The PhD prepared nurse and nurse scientists are considered to be the principal human capital that would be necessary to educate new nursing students. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. The idea is that you do want to make sure that you have an MSN if you are going to teach, and if you don't, you want to make sure that you have a degree in nursing if you want to teach that is at the doctoral level. So if for some reason you didn't obtain an MSN, but an MBA, for example, you would need to look at an actual degree in nursing as that final doctoral level. So the other degree that I have listed here is the Doctor of Education, and this is a professional degree designed for practitioners pursuing educational and leadership roles. Thinking about how long it might take you to accomplish this, the PhD is the longer degree to obtain, 4 to 6 years, sometimes up to 7 to 8 years. The DNP and EDD are usually shorter, usually 2 to 4 years, usually more like 3. Each will depend on how much time you spend and how quickly you try to accomplish the requirements and coursework. So you may be able to do it more quickly, but again, sometimes other things in our life take over and things take a bit longer as well. So let's look at the PhD a little bit more closely. Certainly, we've talked a bit about the nursing PhD, but you certainly could get a PhD in another arena, such as public health, for example. And so that's something you might want to think about in terms of what is your purpose for deciding to get a doctorate. And then there is also the PhD in education that is designed to prepare graduates for research and teaching roles. When I was looking at different doctorate programs, I first looked at the PhD in nursing. When I went to one particular institution's information session, they told me I would need to quit my full-time job and pursue the PhD exclusively. That wasn't something I really wanted to do. So then I did look at an EDD and decided that although that was much more doable while you were working full-time, I did want to have the research background that comes with a PhD. So I did obtain a PhD in education, and my specialization is instructional design for online learning. The DNP, there are different focuses for some DNP programs depending on the institution that you are looking at. Usually you see it revolving around advanced practice, but you may see other DNPs that have options related to healthcare systems leadership or even educational leadership. I'd like to deviate a bit and look at some other options, certifications, certificates, and micro-credentials. I'm going to read a quote from AACN, which says, with the lack of pedagogical content in graduate nursing curricula, micro-credentials are an emerging trend in higher education that can facilitate Faculty preparation and development. Micro-credentialing is a non-traditional education path where students receive training or document competency in a specific area and receive a credential as opposed to course credit. Now, I'll stop there for a moment because sometimes it does involve course credit. For example, a postmaster's certificate as a nurse educator or even as a nurse practitioner. Micro-credentialing allows nursing faculty to document attainment of a new skill set that they can bring to the classroom or to clinical training and to maintain a culture of lifelong learning. So looking at some of the actual credentials, CNE is a certified nurse educator. And with this in particular, you might study on your own to obtain this and take this exam, or you might take a class or a workshop and then actually take the exam. So either way, this would be something that might involve some continuing education, but it wouldn't be usually some course credit per se, unless you had actually worked on a education component to your master's degree and then took this certification. There certainly are other specific specialties you can look at that might be useful depending on what path you are looking at. And then there's also the NEABC, the Nurse Executive Advanced Board Certified. When I first looked at this particular exam and certification, I thought there was a good deal of crossover of content between service and academia. Certainly when I actually took the exam, I thought it was a bit more service related, but I thought I would mention it here because I do have this and I considered it because I am in a leadership position in the educational arena. So looking at the other area in terms of healthcare settings and service, here are some doctorate degrees that you might be looking at. The PhD in nursing that we've already talked about that can be for careers in health administration. And even the DNP, even though it was initially designed for those in advanced practice, you saw that some options are more related to healthcare and service and administration. There is also the DBA. And although this is not my area of expertise, there is the Doctor of Business Administration that can help you build the skills to become a leader, consultant, or educator in your area of interest. There is additionally the PhD in Business Management. So something for you to consider if you have a MBA, some individuals have MBAs and MSNs, for example, and you want to obtain more background related to the business aspects that you may be wanting to focus upon. Next are your goals. In step 3, you want to define your individual, personal, academic, and career goals. Determine what you really want out of a PhD or other doctorate. You will probably want to talk with others that might be familiar with your situation. Seek out resources and ask lots of questions of different institutions, depending on where you might want to study. And this is where you really want to think about what we talked about in terms of the different types of degrees. Certainly, there may be some institutions that expect you to have a PhD in nursing if you are going to teach at that particular institution. But I will tell you that if you take a look at some of the other individuals that have doctorates that are teaching or in administrative roles in academia, you will see the PhD in nursing, the EDD, as well as the DNP. So this can be just dependent upon the particular institution. So it is something for you to think about and consider. Step 4, there are certainly some other considerations such as the type of support, what your finances are, as well as how much time you might have. So there are a number of questions you might want to ask yourself. What is your ideal career? Would a doctorate help you launch that career, or are you already in that career and you want that advancement we talked about? Are there other options such as the micro-credentialing or a mentorship or a workplace experience that might be better in terms of moving yourself forward? Do you actually have time for a doctorate? And who can you rely upon to help support you? What are those financial aid type of options for you? How much money do you need to make during school to support yourself? What about after school? Why have you chosen that specific doctorate? Because hopefully you are at that point at the moment, or you are still considering. Is it a good career move? Are you really interested in that particular topic, for example? When I went to talk with the first PhD in nursing program, they wanted to know what my research was. And as I looked at some applications for programs, that was one of the things you needed to include in your statement. So you might want to start thinking about what you are interested in pursuing in terms of a dissertation topic or even a project if you're looking at the DMP. What is daily life like in the career I am considering? Have you already worked in the field that you are thinking about pursuing a doctorate, and do you like it? What do other people with doctorates have to say about their experience? Have you spoken to graduates of the particular school that you are actually considering? And what type of support does that particular school offer you? What about the graduation rate? Do you know what that is for your school that you are considering? And then this is probably something that might be difficult to find, but you might find this information. After 6 months following graduation, what percentage of students at the school are employed in their chosen field, and what might be the average salary? Those might be more difficult to find unless you are speaking with different individuals. But we will look at some generalizations regarding that. Do you want to work in higher education, and how competitive is the job market? Do you want to work in an industry where a doctorate would offer that career advantage? Again, is there a specific dissertation topic that you're interested in researching and writing about, because you do want to be passionate about whatever you choose in that regard? Do you actually enjoy school? And if you previously struggled in school, what can you do to make your graduate experience different? And how is your chosen school different from the previous schools that you may have attended? Moving on to step 5, you're going to evaluate the other possible outcomes. You will do a lot of writing in a doctoral program, whether it's coursework or the dissertation or project at the end of the program, and this can lead to other types of opportunities. Benjamin Franklin said, either write something worth reading or do something worth writing. So this dissertation is a published piece of research, and this publication can establish you as an authority while additionally allowing you to research that topic that you are so passionate about. Some may actually use this dissertation as a springboard to further research, or write a book or a chapter that began as their dissertation topic, And they may also utilize their experience to demonstrate their expertise. I did write a journal article on my dissertation topic that was published in Nursing Education Perspectives, as well as a chapter of a book. Additionally, you will develop your communication skills a bit more than they may be at the moment. Certainly, they'll be speaking within your coursework, but also defending your dissertation may help you master public speaking and the ability to debate effectively. You're going to know that topic extremely well and be able to say all the pros and cons and explain it in very much detail. So your ideas matter. So you want to write them down, but also you can use that to develop a poster presentation or even an oral presentation at a conference. So let's talk a little bit about employment rate. The unemployment rate in 2018 for doctorate degree holders was just 1.6%, compared to 2.1% for those with a master's and 2.2% with those with a bachelor's and 4.1% with a high school diploma. Then looking at financial gains, earnings tend to increase with education because employers are willing to pay more for expertise. According to 2018 figures from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, median weekly earnings with a doctorate were $1,825. The figure with master's degree was $1,434 compared to $1,198 with a bachelor's and $730 with a high school diploma. And certainly those are just very general numbers, and they can be much more specific depending on the field you are in. You didn't come this far to only come this far. So once you get a doctorate, there can be other things that might materialize for you in the future. So this is in terms of opening doors for you. There is certainly an aspect of networking that will take place while you are taking your courses. You will be introduced to classmates who will become colleagues, and they can inform you of potential positions in the future. Additionally, they can advise you on trends within your field or provide access to opportunities such as speaking at conferences and/or possible writing opportunities. And even with the idea of opening doors, I think I was rather surprised with some of the things that happened once I obtained my doctorate. First of all, I didn't know that people knew I had actually obtained my PhD, and people reached out to me in terms of teaching opportunities in master's degree programs. I had been teaching in an associate degree program at the time, so I started teaching in both bachelor's and master's programs. The other aspect of it that was rather surprising as well was that a little bit later, people started reaching out to me to tell me about positions in leadership. So opening of doors has all sorts of possibilities. Which brings us to step 6. Analyze the options and determine your decision to obtain a doctorate. You might wish for it, hope for it, dream of it, but in the end, you must do it. So you're going to take into consideration everything we've talked about and come to your conclusions. There's going to be a lot of discussion in your own mind about your goals and all of those questions about time that you have and support. Those are going to take a lot of individual reflection on your part. So just to recap the steps to making your decision. Step 1, what is your purpose in considering to obtain a doctorate? That is, again, very individual, but we've talked about a lot of different ways for you to help make that decision. Step 2, we talked about the different types of doctorate and options so that you can have a fuller understanding and know the kinds of questions to ask and where your future might lead regarding the particular doctorate. And step 3, defining those individual goals. Again, that can be a lengthy process to really reflect and think about what you want to do. And step 4, you want to consider all the support, the financial considerations, and the time that are going to go into a particular decision to obtain a doctorate. Step 5, evaluating those other outcomes that you might not have thought of. And step 6, to finally analyze all of those options and determine whether you want to obtain a doctorate or not, and what that looks like. So what will your story be, and where will a doctorate lead you? Thank you.